This is the Nations Conspire channel. Welcome to today's show. RFK Jr., who has been playing the role of now put into power conspiracy theorist, who's going to get rid of mRNA vaccines and is going to go down the rabbit hole of things that we all discuss and then, of course, remove them. But we've all heard this tale before. We've all heard about draining the swamp, investigating a specific pizza parlor where there was enough evidence posted on Instagram to get that parlor shut down and investigated. But of course, nothing ever happened there. Many out there were fooled into thinking that a flight log that was created by the CIA would be released to the public. These things just continually happen because they are luring in people like me and you. They want us to put our hope in man and believe that these people are going to stop the evil, wicked, corrupt globalists. But these people are part of the same exact plan, right? And RFK Jr. is no different. RFK Jr. was on the Dr. Phil show, and he was asked a question about chemtrails. And I'm going to play it for you in a second, but I want to remind you that the left-right paradigm, believing in the left or the right political party, voting and being involved in that system is a part of their game. That is literally the expression pawns in the game, where they move you around like a chess piece, divided against your fellow citizen, your fellow civilian, your fellow neighbor, all because of games that they play on your mind. Elon Musk, Donald Trump, RFK. This is a tweet that somebody put out right after the election. The Democrats won the election, and Elon Musk said some deep truths here because they can flip-flop their allegiance openly out in public, and nobody seems to think that they're working them. They just say, hey, they've joined our team, come on over. Regular citizens, it's very uncommon for them to switch political affiliations. They stay Republican, they're Republican for life. Democrat, they're usually Democrat for life. These people, they're whatever they need to be for that specific day or time period. Donald Trump was always a Democrat. Elon Musk was always a Democrat. Dr. Phil was always a Democrat. Now, of course, all these characters are playing the role of conservatives, and they're bringing up conspiracies to lure people like us in. Dr. Phil, of course, we've seen him do all the same Masonic hand poses like the hand on the chin, the 666 with his hands. He was brought in and is only a household name because of Oprah Winfrey. He's a product of Oprah, as is Dr. Oz, right? We remember Dr. Oz, who, of course, is now a conservative, was always a Democrat. Talked on his show openly. I've covered this and broken this down before about the future is microchip implants in people's bodies, right? Then, of course, he flip-flopped into being a conservative. And even though there's pictures of him hanging out with Marina Abramovich multiple times side by side, sitting at the same table together at some of these galas that they attend, everybody out there just lets it go, right? Because they're a part of their party, so they get a free pass, and they don't realize that that's part of the game. These people are all on the same team. And remember when Marina openly talked about how Donald Trump was the perfect person to put in power, that Donald Trump was the great magician.
Really funny opinion, but there is in Lapland there is a group of the shamans there who do something called collective dreaming. They will go together in seclusion and do the rituals with eating very little food and being in a solitude for a long time, and they will go and dream the dreams. And the dream have to be collective, same dream. So coming out of this dream, once the shaman told me that actually the best thing happened in this planet right now is the Trump to be the president. I said, how is this possible? It's the best thing to happen. He said, yes, because he's so irrational, he's so crazy. That's actually create that awakening, that we finally wake up. Because before it will be another guy and everything looks similar. But he's so different than anything else. So he's the magician who waking us up. What do you think about that? That kind of theory. Trump is the best thing happened ever to us. Huh? That he is the magician of the highest order. That he is there in his irrational mind to create confusion in order that the human being can find new order. And it's not so stupid thinking about this in that way. It's completely turning things upside down.
Right, so that's Marina talking about Trump being that great magician. So all of these people are magicians. They're all working you psychologically into thinking that they're going to change things instead of you changing things. because that takes the power out of our hands and puts it in theirs. Instead of the people actually forming a revolution, when they hear these people talk about subjects that they would probably uprise over, they say, okay, well, I'll wait. RFK mentioned chemtrails. Tennessee lawmakers mentioned chemtrails. Florida has mentioned chemtrails. Maybe they're going to do something about it. Let's wait 6 months for them to convene on this. Then we'll wait another year, then another 5 years. Oh, wait, I'm dead already from all the poison from the chemtrails, right? So, of course, Dr. Phil now playing the role of conservative. So on the show, RFK was asked a question, and I don't know if they didn't vet properly the audience because, look, they vet the audience. They ask them what they're going to ask ahead of time. But if you're given a microphone and you'll say, I went in there and I said, oh, I'm going to ask RFK why he's such a wonderful person. And I'm going to ask him about, men playing men's sports and women playing women's sports. Well, then they would hand me the microphone, right? But if I went in there saying that I was going to ask him about a pizza place or I was going to ask him about chemtrails, they probably wouldn't give me the mic. And it seems like they probably didn't want this woman asking the question about chemtrails because you'll hear the response from Dr. Phil and how he rushes the question and rushes her microphone be taken out of her hand. And then, of course, RFK gives you a quick, pretty rushed answer, but it gives people hope because they think that RFK is anti-chemtrails, right? Listen.
My biggest concern is the stratospheric aerosol injections that are continuously peppered on us every day. Bromium, aluminum, strontium, it's sprayed in our skies all day long.
Is there a question?
Yes. How do we stop it?
That is not happening in my agency. It's done, we think, by DARPA, and a lot of it now is coming out of the jet fuel.
Yes, sir.
So, those materials are put in jet fuel. I'm going to do everything in my power to stop it. Find out who's doing it and holding them accountable. It's done, we think, by DARPA.
So all that sounds wonderful, right? But it doesn't really. It doesn't because it doesn't solve the problem of chemtrails. But it is a big step to have chemtrails mentioned on national television because then people start saying, well, what are these things, right? And then we did start hearing people bringing up chemtrails again. Now, this should be one of those topics. When we talk about conspiracy theories, right, that aren't theories, when we look at events and we say that was staged, that was fake, there's always going to be debate. It's going to be hard to convince the sheeple out there that an event that took place at a school was fake and acted out because they can't wrap their minds around it. Now, if you teach them how all this works with secret societies and the Demolay, which are the children who are trained by Freemasons and Groom, then they might start waking up. But right on the surface level, without any information, it's going to be impossible to wake them up. But chemtrails should be the easiest one. It should be so simple because we see it every day. We look up every day. If you look up, you see a blue sky day immediately turn into a chemtrail day. You see the streaks in the sky over and over, whether it's pictures at national parks or in your own backyard or at the beach. They do it to all of us every day. It shouldn't be a debate. People should be asking what is, but all it takes is for the government and the media to come out and tell you that it's water vapor. And then those people just repeat the answers because that's how they've been trained. Repeat the answers. I know the answers. I listen to science. I put the word science next to it, then they go and repeat it, and they say, that's the science, right? Have you tested what's come out of those airplanes, those military jets? No, they haven't. They just repeat what they hear. So we saw how Dr. Phil pivoted, but you also heard how RFK Jr. mentioned DARPA. Now, how many people out there actually know about DARPA, do you think? Maybe 0% of the population. You want to say 0.0001? That all these things that you buy and bring into your home, cell phones, etc., are all military grade. This is all creations of the government and the military. And they've convinced you to buy these things to bring into your home so they could spy on you and listen to you. Because if they came to your door and said, we're putting this in your home, and they were in, army fatigues with guns, and everyone said, people were like, I don't want it in my home, and they forced it in your home. Well, the neighbors would probably get together when the military wasn't around. And they say, we got to stop this. We got to do something about it. But they've duped people. They're thinking that these corporations and these people like Elon Musk create this technology when it's government technology, and people are willingly buying this technology with their own money, which makes it even crazier, and bringing it into their own home. So he mentioned DARPA. But here's the thing with DARPA. The president has limited power to directly control DARPA, right? So why is it that DARPA is allowed to do these things and they go unregulated by the president? They tell us that this goes to the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, right? A guy who was on Fox News, who's never taken the opportunity on the news to mention what a chemtrail is and expose what a chemtrail is, because, of course, he's one of these people who's in on it, too. So the question should be raised then, why doesn't RFK? Why doesn't Trump? Why not? If these people are actually not in on it, why don't they stop this from actually happening. But all it takes for the common person is to hear them discuss it. And then they say, give it time, wait for it, right? Wait for it, right? We waiting for Donald to drain the swamp. How about the people who believe that PSYOP I mentioned earlier about the flight log? Are they still waiting for that list? Yeah, they are. How long you want to wait? How long you want to wait for the chemtrails to stop? You want to wait till it completely kills us? You want to wait till then? Because it'll be too late. You want to wait for it to kill your kids and your grandkids? Huh? Yeah, you want to wait till we can completely not farm or grow anything anymore, right? So then from there, what we get, of course, is the media pushback, right? I've got to play this clip from you that aired in France, France 24, this propaganda where they have their clueless news anchor laughing. Of course, this is basic mind control. They laugh at these things. If they just laugh and even mention chemtrails, psychologically, the people out there who hear it, who don't know what chemtrails are, they automatically dismiss it as being something serious or truthful, right? It's basic mind control. So you have the anchors laughing, and then you have this woman explaining what chemtrails are. Now, giving her a little bit of credit because she does mention that weather modification is technically real, which you rarely ever hear. But of course, she says because Dubai actually cloud seeds. But don't think at all that they ever modify the weather to create hurricanes, tornadoes, earthquakes, and all the other things they have the ability to do. Listen to this propaganda piece trying to backpedal on chemtrails again, in case anybody out there heard the clip with RFK and, of course, might be investigating it. We have our mainstream media to come out here and push propaganda like this.
It's time now for Truth or Fake. Vedika Patel is over by the big board. Good evening to you, Vedika. Today, then, talking about a conspiracy theory that's now reached all levels of the White House, chemtrails. Vedika, tell me what they are, because I don't know, and tell us what's going on.
Well, Mark, the US Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has pledged that the US will fight chemtrails. Now, this is an unsubstantiated conspiracy theory that's been around for decades, but it's been consistently debunked by scientists as completely baseless. So the chemtrails conspiracy theory is the belief that these long-lasting condensation trails that we see in the skies left by aircraft, that they are in fact toxic chemical trails that are seeding the skies for weather modification, biological warfare in order to poison us, or even to control people's minds in some of the extreme believers' cases. Now, believers question the existence of these chemtrails and the inconsistencies of them. They ask why they're not always there, why is it only some planes that produce them, or why do they come and then disappear, essentially. Now, in reality, let's talk the science behind them. Well, the scientific basis behind these are not chemtrails at all. They are in fact contrails, in other words, condensation trails. They are essentially just temporary plane-created clouds, and they're made up of water vapor, and they take place when the hot jet fuel exhaust, which is mainly water vapor with some soot particles, when that mixes with the colder air at high altitudes, this creates ice crystals that then form these trail-like clouds, and these dissipate based on the weather conditions of the region that they're taking place in, of the day. There's many different regions. Now, this isn't to say that weather modification is entirely false as a concept. We know that cloud seeding exists to induce rain in dry areas, but this is on a very, very small scale worldwide. But overall, Mark, according to a 2017 study, around 10% of Americans fully believe in this chemtrails conspiracy theory.
And that is scary, isn't it?
So that's comical how quickly they dismiss it, and all they have to do is tell you that it's water vapor, where there's actual people who have actually gotten these off of their cars, off of people who have actually been on the planes, military people who have actually come forward and admitted to what these things are. We've actually seen the tanks on these planes, pictures where they didn't expect you to investigate what those little things were on the tank. Hey, what does that say on there? What is that weird chemical? Because most people don't look at the side of their Cheerio box and look up what the chemicals are on there. So when they were releasing pictures of what's going on the plane, they didn't expect people out there to actually research it and look into it. They didn't expect people out there to actually fight back against it. But of course, they've continued with their propaganda machine of just telling people that it's water vapor, right? As if you went in the sky with a power wash, say you were on a helicopter and you sprayed a power wash, you think that would be sitting in the air for hours and hours and hours? You think it would expand like that? No, of course not. It wouldn't even make a cloud, let alone what we see in the skies now, which are not real, actual clouds. I wonder if they even teach that in school anymore. They used to teach you about cloud formations, but now since we don't see them anymore, I'm sure those have been removed from any type of teaching to the youth out there. They think that this is normal to see skies like this, and then everybody wonders why they're sick, why they're depressed, why they have anxiety and everything else that's going on that are a factor from these chemtrails. So for anybody out there who supports Trump, and they come to my channel, they're like, oh, you're just so anti-Trump. I'm anti all of them because none of them are in our best interest. They're working together. So they're like, why don't you bash Biden? No, I've only bashed Biden for years. Why don't you bash Obama? Only for years. I bash all of them because they're all working together. And whoever's president at the time is obviously going to be the one who's removing our laws and our rights little by little and implementing things like Trump is with AI governance, right? But if Trump and these people are on our side, what I would say is this is one of those things that we would actually be able to see to believe, right? Let me go a couple years and look up at the sky and never see a chemtrail in the sky again. And then maybe I'll come out and I'll say, hey, maybe these guys are credible. But at the end of the day, I can't do that. And the reason I can't do that is if they're actually going to come out and start telling us in states like Tennessee and Florida that they're getting rid of chemtrails, that means because they're going to start just using smart dust and mixing it in with that because they've mastered this so much so that it's not going to be visible to the human eye anymore. Literally what they'd have to tell me is that I'm never going to see a military plane fly over my home ever again, or even a commercial airliner, no plane ever. And we know that will never happen because then I'd say, well, there's no chemtrails anymore because there's no planes flying above, right? Because the only way it could possibly happen is if we have these planes above our homes or wherever we live, wherever we reside, wherever we're driving that are spraying us constantly, right? So are they going to say, well, we're never going to fly military planes over somebody's home in Indiana again? Of course not. Of course they're not going to do that because they're going to say, well, that's ridiculous. It's ridiculous of you to say, right? Because then we could all just look at smart dust and we could look at the sensor networks that they're creating with smart dust. The majority of the population know nothing about smart dust. That's what NASA had been working on for so many years. You think they were working on going to space? Come on now. NASA's connected to smart dust. DARPA, as RFK mentioned, connected to smart dust. Smart dust is not visible with the human eye. So if RFK and these people come out and try to convince me or you that they've gotten rid of chemtrails, the only way I'd believe it is if they never flew a plane in the sky, commercial or military, over any civilian lives or where they live or reside, right? Because they can do this with smart dust. And you think this is healthy for you as they're creating and already have created their sensor network?
Every square inch of every city will be alive with intelligence. Every building will have a network of microcomputers built right into them. Smart dust. These all-in-one microcomputers will be small.
The size of a mote today is about the size of a grain of rice. That eventually it will be possible to make things that are on a sub-millimeter size scale.
Tiny specks of computer smart dust will form a vast invisible network to help manage the infrastructure of even the largest city.
And basically distribute it everywhere.
These tiny computers record information about their surroundings, information they can send to other computers or to you. Smart dust will also allow buildings and streets to recognize you and respond accordingly.
The city will know where you are.
Your workplace will know you. Smart dust at the entrance will boot up your computer, and smart dust embedded in the elevator doors will automatically ring your floor.
Smart dust and the new technology may soon make it possible to keep track of anything, anywhere, including you.
Smart dust originated with DARPA back in the 90s. This powder-sized chip is something called the Mu chip from Hitachi. It's the smallest commercially available RFID system in the world. You can literally scatter this stuff like dust or embed it into a sheet of paper. It doesn't require a battery. Flecks of computing power settling on your skin, ingested, monitoring you inside and out.
The nanoparticles are designed to go under the radar of the immune system, and so they are undetected in the body.
We have computing everywhere, we have connectivity everywhere, we have infrastructure that can compute those with new capabilities like AI.
If you have enough data and you have enough computing power, you can understand people better than they understand themselves, and then you can manipulate them in ways which were previously impossible.
Transhumanism is a growing movement that aims to use technology to modify our bodies, sometimes in radical ways to make them stronger, faster, and better.
So all this stuff, it sounds great, right? Oh, we're going to get rid of chemtrails, right? People told me about Tennessee, right? I covered it. I did videos in length on it, that they were going to pass a law to ban chemtrails, right? People still post on the website. People still send me emails. I still see people who reside in Tennessee constantly updating me on the skies. And guess what? They're worse than ever before. So for every state out there that's going to pass legislation to ban chemtrails, I'm not going to believe it. Because what I'll think then next is that they've moved on And their technology is so advanced that we aren't even going to see these in the sky anymore, these streaks. They're going to just do what they do with smart dust. And they're just going to spray us. We're not going to know it anymore. And they're going to say, look, there's no more water vapor. There's no more chemtrails. Stop being a conspiracy theorist. And most of these people will go along with it and believe it. Me, I'll never believe it because these people aren't elected in the first place. These people are not the beacons of hope. These are not the people we're supposed to be looking to for answers because these people work us like we're children and tickle our ears and tell us that they're going to drain swamps and they're going to stop chemtrails. And year after year after year, nothing ever happens. But the problem is most people come here and they go, well, what are you going to do about it? You're going to start a revolution? Well, if everybody woke up to the left-right paradigm, we wouldn't need a revolution. There wouldn't need to be one because everybody could unplug. And like I've said in previous videos, you stop paying your taxes. You stop turning on the television set. You stop listening to what these people say because you realize they aren't even elected in the first place. So you stop empowering them. You stop caring about what they say and do. And you start living your life away from them. The only reason that things are this bad is because they have this much control over people's minds because of the technology. A real revolution doesn't have to be, hey, we're going to go there. We're going to throw them out. A real revolution is unplugging from it. But as long as people are in the left-right paradigm, think of all the conservatives out there who believe in chemtrails. Now, they say in that clip, 10% of people believe in chemtrails. It's got to be more than that at this point. And if it's not, that's a sad state of affairs. But they only tell you that because the people out there listening psychologically, they hear 10% and they're like, oh, this is just some crazy conspiracy theory that just a small portion of idiots believe. If they found out 50% believed it, then they'd be like, oh, a lot of people believe this. Maybe I should investigate. That's just a basic mind control tactic that they use. The same thing with polls. They give you numbers to, to bait you, to persuade you one way versus the other. It's all mind control. That's all that this American experiment really is. And it's a worldwide experiment at this point. But just imagine if all these conservatives pulled out of this thing, but they won't. They're all going to believe that they're going to stop this. And the time's going to keep going and going and nothing's going to get done. And nothing's going to get done. And they're going to get distracted with other fake stories and things about guys dressing up as women and playing in the NFL. And that's all they'll end up caring about because their alt-right media will not report on chemtrails. You hear that on the Daily Wire ever? No. Do you hear that on any of the alt-right media outlets out there? Of course not. Why would they actually educate you on what they're doing to you? Why would they actually tell you this about what's happening in our skies and why everybody's so sick and why people can't have babies and the radiation exposure and everything going on, including weather modification that ties into the geoengineering with the cloud seeding and chemtrailing as well? They won't because they don't want you to wake up because then you realize, wow, these people are all psychopath mass murderers. These are legitimate Dahmers, Bundys, worse, because they're doing this on a scale where it's not 20 people. We're talking billions of people who they're killing off every single day. And then the people band together and they realize, hey, I don't hate my neighbor anymore because I'm not listening to the propaganda anymore about skin color or if one person's gay or not. I'm not listening to any of this stuff anymore. I'm realizing that my neighbor just wants to be left alone and live and be healthy. And the only reason that they're sick is because the government is making them sick with the food and the water and the chemtrailing and everything else and the radiation exposure. Maybe we should shake hands. Maybe we should put our differences aside. And maybe we should rise up. But that won't happen because the left-right paradigm is what keeps them all stuck inside of their chess game. So I don't believe it for a second that RFK is going to do anything. And he didn't say he was going to do anything. He just said, oh, it's on my department. I'm one of you guys. I'm with you, conspiracy. I believe chemtrails just like I believe this stuff. I'll cover it in a separate video, the stuff with the vaxes, where he's pretending like they're not going to mention mRNA anymore. They're going to remove it from labels. Yeah, they're going to remove it from labels because they want you to go and get them. And they know that if they put that on there, that you're not, because they did the data. They realized how many people out there researched mRNA and gene editing. And then they're going to say, oh, well, it's not in there. As if you're going to what? Get the, whatever you're going to get a shot of. You're going to put it under a microscope in CVS and examine it and know the difference between if it has mRNA and it doesn't? Of course not. They just picked it off the label. Who cares? They put whatever they want in there. They tell you that it's healthy for you and you'll believe it's healthy for you, right? They'll say it's not in there. Trump promises. Oh, okay. Who's the one who put it in there in the first place? Oh, right, Donald. Who's the one on day one talked about curing cancer? Donald, right? But we won't go down that rabbit hole in this video. I just wanted to cover the RFK nonsense. I got riled up seeing it because I don't believe it for a second. And again, this is one of those things you could see with your own eyes. They still haven't stopped. It's actually worse than ever before. And even if they did, I still wouldn't believe it, knowing what we all know about smart dust and how advanced their technology and DARPA's technology is. Maybe people will research DARPA and say, hey, This is a little bit, because they go, oh, DARPA's our military defense. And then they realize, oh, DARPA practices false flags. DARPA has magic bullets, smart bullets that couldn't miss anyone's head, right? So when we talk about the deep state, we should be talking about DARPA. And then when we have psychological operations, like when Donald Trump got shot and then everyone's saying it's the deep state, people should be going, well, if it was the deep state, they wouldn't have missed because they have the magic smart bullets, right? No, it's too much for them to think about, right? Too scary for them to think about. They'd rather put their trust in man and hope that they fix it for them instead of the people fixing it for themselves. I thank everybody for being here. Hope you're all doing well. God bless you and your families as always.